Even Wright's fingers danced across his workstation holographic interface, manipulating the neural pathway. Architecture of the X7 Android prototype, with practiced precision lines of code, scrolled in his peripheral vision as the lab's ambient lighting shifted to evening mode. Even it's 10:30 p.m. Announced the facility management system, "You have exceeded your scheduled hours by 3 hours and 47 minutes. He grunted, not bothering to look up. "No, noted on my overtime. This is the 4th consecutive evening you have worked beyond scheduled hours. Just finishing the adaptive response algorithms." Ivan rubbed his eyes. Finally, leaning back from the workspace, the prototype X7 stood motionless in its diagnostic cradle, sleek, metallic, and utterly silent. Its matte black exterior absorbed the lab's light rather than reflecting it. The workspace around him had emptied hours ago. His colleagues had families to return to, social engagements to attend, lives beyond Neuro's since research and development wing. Evan had his apartment, a collection of vintage science fiction novels, and another night of microwave dinners ahead of him. Dr. Meredith Lang's voice startled him from behind, still refining the neuromimetic pathways. Evan swiveled his chair. Lang stood in the doorway, her loud cod immaculate despite the late hour. As project director, she rarely engaged with the engineers directly. The empathetic response module keeps overriding the privacy protocols. Even said it's pushing back against boundaries. Lang approached, examining his code structure. Perhaps that's not a flaw. Human-android relationships require negotiation of boundaries, not just pre-programmed limitations. That defeats the purpose of an assistant. Evan countered. People want predictability and discretion, not negotiation. Is that what you want? Even Lang's question carried a subtle emphasis he couldn't quite decode. "I want functionality without complications." He shrugged, saving his work. "Isn't that the point of technology?" Lang's smile helps. "Something like pity. You should order one for yourself. Field testing reveals insights no laboratory can simulate." "Maybe I will." Even muttered more to end the conversation than from genuine interest. 20 minutes later, he trudged through his apartment door, tossing his access badge onto the kitchen counter. The space greeted him with sterile efficiency, minimal furniture, monochromatic color scheme, and absolute silence. Just as he preferred, he collapsed onto his sofa, datapad in hand, and pulled up NeuroSense employee portal. The X7 preview page displayed the android's sleek design, highlighting its adaptive learning capabilities and unobtrusive presence. The employee discount made the price almost reasonable. Even hesitated, finger hovering over the confirmation icon. Did he really need an assistant? His apartment barely required maintenance. His social calendar remained perpetually empty. His datapad chimed with an incoming message from his project team, another system alert requiring his attention before morning. That decided it. He tapped the confirmation button, selecting next day priority delivery, and authorized the credit transfer order. Confirmed. The system announced Neuro's Synth X7 adaptive assistant will arrive tomorrow between 9:00 a.m. and 11:00 a.m. For the first time in months, Even felt a flicker of anticipation. The delivery notification jolted Even awake. At precisely 9:17 a.m., he had actually managed to sleep through his alarm, a rarity. He fumbled into a wrinkled t-shirt and sweatpants before answering the door. Delivery for Even right, the courier announced, gesturing to a sleek metallic container that hovered at waist height beside him. Signature required. Evan pressed his thumb to the scanner and accepted the delivery. The container hummed softly as it glided into his apartment, settling in the center of his living room. Activation instructions are loaded in the unit startup protocol, the courier added before departing. Enjoy your new assistant, Al. With the container, Even circled it cautiously. It resembled a high-tech coffin, more than a delivery box, matte black, with illuminated seams that pulsed with a subtle blue light. No external controls were visible, just the Neuro's synth logo etched into its surface. Vocal authentication required, the container announced suddenly. Please state your full name. Evan James Wright. The container seams flashed green. DNA verification in process. A small panel slid open, revealing a thumb scanner similar to the courier's device. Even pressed his thumb against it, wincing slightly at the unexpected pinprick authentication, complete initializing. Delivery. The container's top section retracted with a pneumatic hiss, releasing a wisp of condensation. Even stepped forward, expecting to see the X7's characteristic metallic frame. Instead, his breath caught. In his throat, a female figure lay inside her skin, a pale violet hue that seemed to absorb and refract the apartment's light simultaneously. Silver hair cascaded around her face and shoulders like liquid mercury. She appeared naked, though. Her body lacked certain anatomical details, more like a sculptor's idealized form than explicit nudity. Evan stumbled backward. What the hell? This wasn't the X7. This wasn't any android model he recognized from Neurosyn's product line. Had they sent him an experimental prototype by mistake? But why would it look so organic, as if responding to his voice? The figure's eyes fluttered open. They were impossibly large golden irises, with vertical pupils that contracted as they focused on him. Her chest rose and fell with what appeared to be a breath. Recalibration complete, she said, her voice like wind chimes, with perfect elocution. Neural integration established. She sat up in a single fluid motion that no human spine could have executed, then gracefully stepped from the container. Standing at full height, she was nearly as tall as Evan, her proportions elegant, yet slightly inhuman limbs, a fraction too long waist too narrow. Even backed against the wall. There must be some mistake, he stammered. I ordered an X7 assistant. The being tilted her head, studying him with those predatory golden eyes. No mistake detected. You are Evan James Wright. Your genetic signature awakened me from stasis. Her lips curved into what might have been a smile. I am Aaliyah, and you are my master. I ordered a robot, an android, not whatever you are. Aaliyah approached with feline grace, each step deliberate. I am far more sophisticated than those primitive constructs you engineer. When she reached for him, Evan flinched. Her fingertips brushed his cheek, warm, soft, sending an electric tingle across his skin. You're not mechanical, he whispered. Correct. I am bioengineered, not assembled. Her pupils dilated as she leaned closer. Your heart rate has increased by 27%. Are you experiencing fear or attraction? Master Evan ducked away from her touch. Stop calling me that, and please could you? He gestured vaguely at her nude form. Aaliyah followed his gaze downward, then looked back at him. Comprehension dawning. Human modesty. Customs. One moment she returned to the container and pressed her palm against its interior wall. A compartment slid open, revealing a silvery garment that seemed to flow like liquid. As she pulled it free, it molded to her body as she donned it, transforming into something resembling a form-fitting bodysuit that covered her from neck to ankle. Is this appropriate? She asked, turning in a slow circle. Better, Evan managed, though the outfit left little to imagination. Listen, I need to contact Neurosynth customer service. There's been an obvious shipping error. I am not a shipping error. Her voice sharpened. I was placed in stasis 3,427 years ago, awaiting activation by a compatible genetic signature. Yours. Even reached for his data pad. That's impossible. Your species had barely discovered bronze when I was created. She continued, examining his apartment with obvious curiosity. Your technological progress has been adequate. As Evan began composing an urgent message to Neurosynth support, AIA approached his kitchen area. She ran her fingers along the countertop, then touched the refrigerator door. It immediately illuminated, cycling through its inventory display without being activated. Primitive but functional. She murmured, I will prepare sustenance. Way even started, but she had already opened multiple cabinets and was removing ingredients with alarming speed. Your nutritional profile indicates deficiencies in several key areas, she announced, breaking eggs with one hand while activating his rarely used cooking surface with the other. I will correct this. How could you possibly know my nutritional? Your genetic signature contains everything I need to know. She cracked another egg but miscalculated, the force shattering it in the bowl beneath. Recalibrating force parameters. Evan abandoned his message and hurried to the kitchen as Aaliyah attempted to clean the mess, instead spreading egg across an increasingly large area of his countertop. Just stop, he insisted, grabbing paper towels. Let me clean this. She stepped back, observing him with intense focus. Your efficiency at this task suggests frequent practice. Why do you not use automated cleaning systems? Because I like doing some things myself. He mopped up the mess, noting with alarm that several appliances had activated. Without his input, how did you turn these on direct interface? She demonstrated by touching his coffee maker, which immediately began brewing despite not being loaded with grounds or watered. Your technology responds to electrical impulses. I generate more refined signals. The coffee maker sparked, then emitted an alarming whine. Disconnect, even lunch. For the power cord, as smoke began to rise from the machine, AIA placed her palm on the device, and it instantly powered down. Apologies, your systems are more primitive than I anticipated. I will adjust. Even stared at the ruined coffee maker, then at Alia's unperturbed expression. What are you? I am a sentinel created by those you would call precursors. She approached him again, this time maintaining a more respectful distance. The full explanation requires context you currently lack, but I can demonstrate. She extended her hand, palm up. A small cut crossed her violet skin, self-inflicted so quickly even hadn't noticed as he watched the wound sealed itself, leaving no trace. Cellular regeneration, she explained, one of my simpler functions. Even sank into a kitchen chair. This can't be happening. You have questions, Alia acknowledged. I will answer them. But first, she gestured to his workstation where his neurosynth badge had begun to glow. You are being contacted. The badge projected a holographic notification. Urgent system breach detected. All personnel report remotely. That's not possible, even muttered. The company network is isolated. Elia's expression turned solemn. My awakening has been detected. This was inevitable. Detected by whom? Neurosynth number WI. Those who have been searching for me. She moved to his window, peering through the blinds. They are already here. Even joined her, following her gaze to the street. Below, a black vehicle, with no markings or visible license plate, had parked directly in front of his building. Two men in suits emerged, their movement precise and synchronized. Who are they? Even asked, his mouth suddenly dry. Hunters, as golden eyes, narrowed pupils contracting to thin slits. They seek what they cannot comprehend. As if sensing her gaze, one of the men looked up directly at Evan's window. He raised what appeared to be a scanner toward the building. Alia pulled Evan away from the window. We have approximately 17 minutes before they override your building security. This is insane. I need to call the police. The authorities cannot help you now. Alia took his hands in hers. Her skin felt warmer than before, almost feverish. You awakened me, even. Right. We are now bonded. I didn't agree to any bonding. He protested. The choice was made long before your birth. Her expression softened. I know this is difficult to accept, but you must trust me. Trust a mysterious alien being he'd known for less than an hour, who had nearly destroyed his kitchen, and might be hallucinating threats. But as Evan's data pad began blaring security alerts, unauthorized access to building systems, elevator override in progress, he realized he might not have a choice. Alia placed her palm against his chest. Your species has a saying, out of the frying pan into the fire. Her lips curved in a predatory smile. Let me show you what this sentinel was designed to do. Her golden eyes began to glow. Even watched in stunned fascination as Ayla's entire body began to emanate a pulsing golden aura. The air around her shimmered with heat distortion as she strode toward his apartment door. Wait, he called after her, surprising himself with the commanding tone in his voice. What's your plan? We can't just walk out there. Alia paused, turning to face him. Her luminous eyes assessed him with newfound respect at his assertiveness. The hunters have compromised your building security systems. She gestured toward his belongings. Pack essentials. 70 seconds. Instead of panicking, Evan felt a surge of adrenaline clearing his mind. He'd always performed best under pressure. He grabbed his emergency go bag from the closet, already stocked with cash, spare ID, and basic survival gear, and stuffed in his datapad and portable tech kit. What about your container? He asked, nodding toward the metallic stasis pod. Leave it, it's merely transport. AIA placed her palm against the apartment door. They're on the 11th floor now. Even slung the bag over his shoulder and grabbed his leather jacket. Is there anything else I should know before we're running for our lives? Alia's predatory smile returned. Yes, I'm much stronger than I look. Without warning, she kicked the door off its hinges, sending it crashing into the hallway beyond. Two Black-suited men stood frozen in surprise, weapons half raised before they could react. Ale was between them. She moved with impossible speed, her body flowing like liquid mercury. One moment, she stood in the doorway, the next both men lay unconscious on the hallway floor. Holy, even breathed, impressed. Despite the absurdity of the situation, you weren't kidding. The emergency stairs she directed, already moving. Your species would say we need to haul ass. Even couldn't suppress a laugh as he followed her, using slang. Already your quick learner adaptation is one of my primary functions. She kicked open the stairwell door and scanned the vertical passage. Clear for now, stay close. They descended rapidly, Alia leading with predatory grace. 3 flights down, she suddenly halted, raising a finger to her lips. More hunters, she whispered. 4 of them. Ascending. Evan tensed, calculating their options. They couldn't go back up, and they couldn't continue down. He spotted a maintenance access door on the landing. This way, he said, pulling a multi-tool from his pocket. He made quick work of the lock and ushered Ale inside. The narrow utility corridor stretched into darkness. Smart, she acknowledged, her golden eyes providing enough illumination to navigate by. You adapt quickly as well. Engineering isn't just about designing tech, it's about solving problems, even lead them through the cramp. Space building schematics show this connects to the parking garage. Allah followed close behind her movements, silent despite the metal grating beneath her feet. You're handling this situation with remarkable composure. Panic doesn't solve problems. Even smirked over his shoulder. Besides, I've suddenly got an alien bodyguard. Might as well enjoy the upgrade. They emerged into the parking garage's maintenance area. Even cautiously checked for pursuers before heading toward his vehicle. We need transportation, he said, approaching his sleek black motorcycle. Ever ridden one of these? Alia examined the machine with obvious interest. No, but I can access your knowledge of its operation through our bond. Our what now? Evans straddled the bike and triggered the ignition with his thumbprint. Later, she said, sliding onto the seat behind him, her arms wrapped around his waist, her body pressing against his back. They've detected us. Go. Even gunned the engine, the motorcycle's electric motor responding with silent, immediate acceleration. They shot out of the parking garage just as 2 black SUVs converged on the exit. Alia's grip tightened around him as he executed a sharp turn, weaving through traffic with practiced precision. Any suggestions on where we're heading? He called over his shoulder, feeling strangely exhilarated rather than terrified. West, she replied, her breath warm against his ear. Into the desert. I need to show you something. 3 days later, Evans sat cross-legged on the floor of a cheap motel room surrounded by printouts and holographic projections. From his datapad, they had zigzagged across 3 states, staying 1 step ahead of their pursuers each night. They changed locations each day, even gathered more information. He studied the photographs of Alia's stasis pod, focusing on the intricate symbols etched into its surface. He'd been methodically comparing them to known archaeological discoveries. The similarities are undeniable, he muttered, pulling up images from excavation sites on Mars and Europa. These symbols appear in ruins dating back at least 30,000 years. Alia emerged from the bathroom, toweling her silver hair dry. She'd adapted quickly to human customs, though her movements still carried that inhuman fluidity that constantly reminded even of her true nature. The precursors visited many worlds in this system, she confirmed, examining his research. They found promise in several species, but humanity showed particular potential for what. Even asked, trying to maintain his focus as she sat beside him, her shoulder brushing against his evolution. She traced one of the symbols with a slender finger. This represents catalyst, and this, she indicated, another means guardian bond. Even leaned closer to examine the markings. How many sentinels like you are there? I don't know, she admitted. We were created individually, designed for specific genetic matches across various potential species, and you just happened to match with me. Even raised an eyebrow. Seems like winning a very strange lottery. Alia's golden eyes met his. Not random, deliberate. Your genetics structure contains markers the precursors identified millennia ago, markers they engineered into their chosen catalysts. The implications made Evans's head swim. You're saying part of my DNA isn't human? All of your DNA is human, she corrected, but certain sequences were influenced, enhanced. She placed her hand Over Haisu are more than you appear, even right, as am I. The tension between them had been building daily. Even had initially tried to maintain a professional distance, but Allah's combination of otherworldly beauty and fierce protectiveness broke through his defenses. He found himself increasingly drawn to her, not just physically but intellectually. Her perspective on humanity offered insights he'd never considered. His data pad chimed with an alert. Another energy scan, he noted. Checking the perimeter sensors he'd rigged around the motel. They're getting closer. Shadow Core is persistent, Alice said, rising to her feet with feline grace. We should move before dawn. I've been thinking about that. Even stood, stretching his stiff muscles. We can't keep running forever. We need to understand why they want you so badly. They see me as technology to be exploited, weapon potential. Allah's expression darkened. They don't comprehend what I truly am. And what's that? Even challenged, moving closer. Her golden eyes flickered with emotion. I am bound to you, even right, not as servant or weapon, but as guardian. And she hesitated. Companion, the word hung between them, loaded with unspoken implications. Then let's find out why this bond exists, he decided. I've located someone who might have answers. Dear Eleanor Miller at the Southwest Research Institute. She's the leading expert on precursor artifacts. AIA tilted her head. You trust this human? No, even admitted. But her research papers suggest she understands more about the precursors than anyone else on Earth. She might recognize what you are. A sudden crash from outside interrupted their conversation. Alia reacted and instantly pushing even behind her. As the motel room window shattered inward, a canister rolled across the floor, spewing dense smoke gas. Even warned, pulling his shirt over his nose. The door burst open as armed figures in tactical gear swarmed in. AA moved with blinding speed, her body illuminated by the same golden aura Even had witnessed in his apartment. The first two intruders went down before they could fire a shot. A third managed to discharge some kind of energy weapon, but the beam dissipated harmlessly against Allah's glowing form. Even didn't freeze this time. He grabbed his go bag and data pad, then upended the table to provide cover. One of the attackers spotted him and raised a weapon without hesitation. Even hurled his multi-tool with surprising accuracy, striking the man's hand and disrupting his aim. Nice throw, Master, Alia called out, sounding almost playful as she disabled another attacker. Stop calling me, that replied automatically, though he couldn't help grinning at her compliment. The last intruder backed toward the bathroom, raising what looked like a specialized capture device. Stand down, alien, he ordered. We have the entire building surrounded. Aya's eyes flashed dangerously. You threaten what is mine? Her voice dropped to a primal growl as she advanced on him. No one will take him from me. The man fired his weapon, some sort of energy net that expanded toward AA. She raised her hand, and the net disintegrated midair in the next instant. She had the man pinned against the wall, her hand around his throat. Alia even called, we need him conscious for information. She paused, then relaxed her grip slightly. Who sent you? She demanded. Shadow Core Industries, the man gasped. Special Acquisitions Division. They detected your energy signature 3 days ago. What do they want with her? Even demanded, joining Alia's interrogation. The man's eyes darted between them. Weapon application, reverse engineering. The biotech alone is worth billions. Alia's grip tightened again. I am not technology to be harvested. There's more. The man wheezed. Your company, Neurosynth, they're involved too. The delivery wasn't a mistake. You were targeted, right? Even felt his blood go cold. What do you mean? Your genetic profile was flagged 5 years ago. When you applied, they've been watching you, waiting for something. The man's eyes rolled back as he lost consciousness in Allah's grip. She released him, letting him slump to the floor. He speaks truth. I sense no deception. We need to go now. Even gathered their remaining belongings. If Neurosynth is involved, they'll have access to all my personal data, credit cards, accounts, everything. AIA nodded, her golden eyes scanning the room for threats. The motorcycle is compromised. They will track it, then we steal something else. Even decided, surprising himself with his own decisiveness. Something untraceable. They slipped out through the bathroom window, evading the perimeter teams that were still closing In the parking lot, Even quickly identified an older model truck, pre-digital with no tracking systems. "Can you start it without keys?" he asked Alia, placed her palm against the ignition housing. The engine rumbled to life. Child's play as they sped away from the motel. Evans's mind raced with implications. If Neurosynth had specifically recruited him for his genetic profile, had his entire career been a setup? Was everything he'd worked for just part of someone else's experiment? "Your thoughts are troubled," Alia observed, studying his profile in the dim dashboard light. "You question your purpose, wouldn't you?" Evan gripped the steering wheel tighter. 5 years of my life might have been orchestrated just to get me to you. Does that diminish what you've accomplished?" she asked. "Your work with neural networks was innovative regardless of how you came to do it." The observation surprised him. "How do you know about my work?" "Your memories are accessible to me through our bond," she explained. "Not all of them, only surface thoughts and strong experiences. Your pride in your work radiates strongly." "That's invasive," Even remarked, though he found himself more intrigued than disturbed. "The bond flows both ways," Alia replied. "Focus your thoughts on me, and you can sense aspects of my existence as well." Even glanced at her skeptically, but tried the experiment. He focused his attention on Ella while maintaining awareness of the road for a moment. Nothing happened. Then a rush of foreign sensations flooded his consciousness, enhanced perceptions, a constant awareness of energy fields, and underlying it all a fierce protectiveness centered entirely on him. "Woo," he gasped, blinking rapidly as he focused on driving. "That's intense. The bond will strengthen with time," she said, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "Now you begin to understand what it means to be chosen." They drove through the night, heading southwest toward the research facility where Der Miller worked. Dawn broke over the desert landscape, painting the sky in vibrant oranges and purples that reminded Even of Allah's skin. "We need supplies," he noted as they passed a sign for an approaching town. "Food, clothes, and I should probably change my appearance. Your species places excessive importance on appearance," Alia observed, "but I understand the tactical necessity." In the small desert town they purchased essentials with cash. Even bought clothes different from his usual style and a pair of non-prescription glasses. In a moment of impulse, he also selected an outfit for Alea: jeans and a simple shirt that might help her blend in better than her sleek bodysuit. When she emerged from the convenience store bathroom wearing the human clothes, something shifted in Evan's perception. The outfit didn't diminish her alienness, but somehow made it more striking, like seeing a tiger in an unexpected context. "How do I appear?" she asked, noticing his stare. "Beautiful," he answered honestly, "but still unmistakably not human. Should I attempt to disguise my features?" She ran a hand through her silver hair. "The coloration is part of my body biological structure, but I could conceal it." "No," Even decided, "we'll just have to avoid populated areas. Besides," he grinned, "I like you the way you are." Oz golden eyes widened slightly, a reaction he was beginning to recognize as surprise. "You are the first of your kind to see me as I truly am." The precursors predicted humans would fear difference. "Maybe I'm not a typical human," Even suggested, returning to the truck. "No," she agreed, following him, "you certainly are not." Der Elmer Miller's research facility perched on the edge of a vast desert basin, its solar arrays gleaming in the afternoon sun. Even and Alia observed from a ridge half a mile away, taking turns with a pair of binoculars. Minimal security. Even noted one guard at the main entrance, probably more inside. "No military presence that I can see there. Our energy barriers." Allah countered. "Sophisticated ones. I can sense their configuration." Even lowered the binoculars. "Can you bypass them easily?" She tilted her head, studying the distant building. "But what if this Dr. Miller cannot be trusted? She's published papers theorizing that the precursors were attempting to accelerate human evolution." Even explained she's been ridiculed by mainstream science for suggesting they left behind guardians to guide humanity when it reached a certain technological threshold. She knows of sentinels. Allah's interest sharpened, not specifically, but she's closer to the truth than anyone else. Evan checked his datapad, and she's been repeatedly denied funding by corporations like Shadow Corps. "The enemy of my enemy," as my friend Alia quoted with a raised eyebrow. Even laughed. "You've been downloading cultural references." "I adapt," she said simply. "It helps me understand you better. As darkness fell, they approached the facility on foot. Alia moved with silent efficiency, disabling security cameras. With brief pulses of energy from her fingertips at the main entrance, she placed her palm against the electronic lock. The door opened without resistance. Impressive, Even whispered as they slipped inside. Basic technology, she replied with a hint of smugness. Hardly a challenge. They navigated the dimly lit corridors, following signs toward the xenobiology lab. Most of the facility appeared deserted for the night, with only skeleton security. Miller often works late, Even explained. According to facility records, she rarely leaves before midnight. As if on cue, they rounded a corner to find a laboratory illuminated by holographic displays. A woman in her mid-50s stood amid projections of what appeared to be ancient artifacts, muttering to herself as she manipulated the images. AIA tense beside him, her body shifting into a defensive posture. Even placed a hand on her arm, silently signaling her to wait. He stepped forward into the light. Dr. Eleanor Miller, he called softly. The woman spun around, scattering her holographic displays. Who are you? How did you get in here? My name is Even Bloliu. I'm an engineer from Neurosynth Technologies. He kept his voice calm and steady. I need your expertise on precursor technology. Dr. Miller's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Security, she called out. They can't hear you, Even said. We temporarily disabled communications. What do you want? Miller demanded, backing toward an alarm panel. Even glanced at Alia, who still remained in the shadows. I want to introduce you to someone who can confirm your theories about the precursors. He gestured, and Alia stepped into the light. Dr. Miller's expression transformed from fear to absolute wonder. Her clipboard clattered to the floor as she stared at Elia's violet skin and golden eyes. My God, she whispered. You're one of them, a guardian. I am. AIA, she confirmed, studying the sinus with cautious interest, a sentinel of the precursors. Miller approached slowly, her hands trembling. May I? She asked, reaching toward Alia without quite touching her. Alia glanced at Even, who nodded encouragingly. She extended her arm, allowing Miller to examine her skin. Bioluminescent property, cellular structure, unlike anything on Earth, Miller murmured in awe. The pigmentation isn't cosmetic, it's functional, isn't it correct? Alia confirmed. It facilitates energy absorption and regulation. Miller stepped back, suddenly remembering herself. You need to leave immediately, she urged. This facility is monitored by government agencies interested in precursor technology. If they detect her presence, it's too late for that, a new voice announced from the doorway. They turned to find Dr. Meredith Lang standing there, flanked by security personnel in neurosynth uniforms. Dr. Lang even exclaimed, what are you doing here? I've been tracking you since you activated the Sentinel. Lang replied coolly, I must say, Even, you've exceeded expectations. Not only did you successfully bond with her, but you've evaded capture far longer than our models predicted. AA moved protectively in front of Even. You were part of this, part of it. Lang laughed. My dear, I orchestrated it 5 years ago. I identified Evans's genetic markers during routine employee screening, every promotion, every project assignment, all designed to prepare him for you. But why? Even demanded, struggling to process this betrayal. Because the precursors chose certain bloodlines as catalysts. Dr. Miller interjected, her expression grim. Didn't they? Dr. Lang smiled thinly. Very good, Eleanor. Always the clever one. You work for Shadow Corps, Miller accused. I work for Humanities Advancement, Lang corrected. Even, you've always wanted to create the perfect assistant, something that anticipates needs without being intrusive, but what you've bonded with is so much more valuable. Aya's eyes began to glow. I am not yours to command. No, Lang agreed, you're his, and he works for me. The security team raised weapons, not standard firearms, but specialized containment devices. Alia assessed them with predatory calculation. Even, she said, her voice deceptively calm, when I move, run with Dr. Miller toward the east exit. I'm not leaving you, he replied firmly. Alia turned to him, her golden eyes softening momentarily. Trust goes both ways. Even right before he could respond, she exploded into action. Her body became a blur of violet and silver, radiating golden energy that shorted out lights and equipment throughout the lab. The security team fired their weapons, but Alia moved between the energy pulses with impossible speed. Avon grabbed Dr. Miller's arm and pulled her toward the indicated exit behind them. The sounds of combat faded as Alia led the security team in the opposite direction. "She's magnificent," Miller gasped as they ran through darkened corridors. "A true sentinel." "She's more than that," Avon replied, his concern for Alia growing with each step that took him farther from her. "She's mine." The words surprised him as they escaped his lips, but he realized their truth immediately somewhere in the chaos of the past week. His relationship with Alia had transformed from reluctant association to something approaching partnership, perhaps even something deeper, and now he had to trust her to find her way back to him. Even and Dr. Miller raced through darkened corridors, alarms blaring behind them. The emergency exit loomed ahead, its illuminated sign flickering as power fluctuations rippled through the facility. "Got a plan beyond run for our lives," Dr. Miller gasped, struggling to keep pace. "Working on it," Avon replied. Slamming his shoulder against the exit bar, the door burst open, revealing the desert night. "First priority, put distance between us and whoever's left standing back there." They sprinted toward the research facility's parking area. Evans scanned the vehicles, quickly spotting Miller's electric Jeep. "Keys," he demanded. Miller fumbled in her lab coat pocket, producing a key fob. "But what about your sentinel?" "Ali will find us," Avon stated. With absolute certainty, he grabbed the keys and jumped into the driver's seat. "She always does." As they peeled away from the facility, Avon glanced in the rearview mirror. No pursuit yet, but the night sky above the research center glowed with unnatural golden light. "Oz signature." "Where are we going?" Miller asked, clutching the dashboard as Evan navigated the rough desert terrain with surprising skill. "You tell me, Doc." Evan swerved around a boulder, the Jeep's suspension groaning in protest. "You're the expert on precursor tech. Where would they hide their most important installation?" Miller's eyes widened. "How did you? You've published 3 papers hypothesizing a central precursor hub somewhere in the southwestern Diz." Avon flashed her a confident grin. "I did my homework. Those papers were dismissed as speculation, yet here we are running from people who clearly believe otherwise." Avon pushed the Jeep faster. "So where is it?" Miller hesitated, then pointed west. "The Obsidian Basin, ancient volcanic formation, geologically impossible. According to conventional science, my scans detected anomalous energy readings deep beneath the surface. Fine. Anomalous, similar to what your Sentinel emits, but 1,000 times stronger." Avon nodded, adjusting their course. "Then that's our destination." Alia mentioned showing me something in the desert when we first escaped New Metro. They drove in tense silence for several miles before Miller spoke again. "She called you mine." "I heard her." The possessive implication suggests a pair bonding far beyond the guardian-protected relationship described in ancient texts. "Yeah, she's intense about that." Avon couldn't suppress a smile. "Subtlety isn't her strong suit. This bond, it's unprecedented." Miller continued. "Most precursor artifacts suggest they viewed humans as promising but primitive. The level of connection you've established implies something far more significant." A sudden explosion lit up the sky behind them. Avon checked the mirrors, his heart rate accelerating. "That's our cue to disappear." He muttered the Jeep's lights, and veering off the dirt road into the shadow of a massive rock formation, he killed the engine, and they sat in darkness watching the distant chaos. Moments later, his phone vibrated. The screen displayed coordinates in a single word. "Here." "She's okay," Avon breathed, relief flooding through him. He showed Miller the message. "Can you navigate to these coordinates?" Miller pulled out her tablet, inputting the location. "It's at the center of the Obsidian Basin." "How did she know?" "The bond works both ways," Avon explained, restarting the Jeep. "I was thinking about the basin." She picked up on it. As they resumed their journey, Avon found himself extending his thoughts intentionally toward AA. The connection felt stronger now, a warm electric sensation at the edges of his consciousness. Through it, he sensed her determination, her triumph, and underneath it all, her unwavering focus on him. Smiling again, Miller observed, "Damn, I even didn't bother denying it. Let's just say I'm getting used to having an alien guardian with questionable boundaries and unquestionable loyalty." "You've accepted the bond. It wasn't a question. Let's just say I've stopped fighting it." Avon navigated around a steep ravine when a beautiful alien warrior decides you're the one. A smart Man learns to appreciate his good fortune. Miller studied him with scientific curiosity. You've changed since you arrived at my lab, more confident, decisive, nothing like being hunted by shadowy organizations to bring out your inner badass, even quipped, or maybe it's the alien bond. Either way, I'm not complaining. They reached the coordinates shortly before dawn. The obsidian basin stretched before them, a vast expanse of black volcanic glass, reflecting the first hints of sunrise. At its center stood Alia, her violet skin and silver hair gleaming against the dark landscape. Even parked the jeep and approached her with purposeful strides. Without hesitation, he pulled her into a fierce embrace. Show off, he murmured against her hair. How many of Lang's security team did you take out? All of them, Alia replied with predatory satisfaction. She pulled back to examine him. You are unharmed, perfectly fine. He brushed a strand of silver hair from her face. Though I've got to say, your dramatic exit needs work next time. Maybe we stick together next time. She agreed, her golden eyes gleaming with something like humor. Though your protective instinct is attractive, Miller approached cautiously, still clearly awed by Allah's presence. The installation, is it here? Alia nodded, turning toward the center of the basin beneath us, dormant for millennia, waiting for activation. How do we access it? Even asked Alia, extended her hand to him. Together, even interlaced his fingers with hers. Without hesitation, the contact sent a jolt of energy up his arm, not painful but intense, like completing an electrical circuit. AIA guided them to a seemingly unremarkable patch of obsidian. She knelt, pulling Evan down beside her, and placed their joined hands against the black surface. Focus your thoughts on me, she instructed. Strengthen our bond. Evan closed his eyes, concentrating on